Hello and welcome to Dr. K's Psychobabble, and today's topic is going to be to explore probably one of the most famous of all the psychological theories that are out there, and that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist and was a student of Freud, as many of the founding figures of psychology were, and departed from Freud's perspective to explore a different idea about the motivations for human behavior. Now, keeping in mind that Freud's model of development was basically centered around the notion of our behavior is motivated by survival instincts, by procreation instincts, and basically what he referred to as the sex drive, and that was the energy that gave people motivation to move forward. Erikson came along and said, "Oh, I think the motivation is for human beings in particular is to move forward and navigate the social world and formulate a relationship with the social world and its need to control your psyche." So he developed the psychosocial perspective of the human psyche developing through a set of stages, learning how to cope and deal with the pressures and structure of society. And then, not that it didn't happen linear like this, but the other perspective, here we have Maslow coming along, and his perspective that human beings, all the animals, and then human beings, more needs, have a various needs all the time, and they negotiate experiences in the world to meet those needs. And successful development was the ability to navigate those needs and achieve ultimately what he called self-actualization and even transcendence above that. Now, Maslow's work ushered in kind of two areas: humanist psychology, which got away from the determinism that was in Freud's work and moved toward the fact that human willpower and choices make a much more impact on our development. And that philosophy, even though humanist psychology is very, very hard to find, I guess, it's sort of passé now, that philosophy of making choices and moving through life through making free will choices that, it's up to me to determine my happiness and whatnot, remains an incredibly powerful force in psychology. The very important attribution that humanist psychology gave to the field. Maslow also could really be kind of one of the first positive psychology people, and that's of course a very, very vibrant area of psychology right now, because what he did in the development of his idea of how human beings developed, rather, such as in Freud and often with Erikson and some of the earlier psychologists and psychiatrists, rather than focusing on persons who have mental illness, he focused on people who were doing really, really well. So his idea, in his original writings, he actually writes about, if we focus on illness, we're going to have theories of human beings that explain illness. If we focus on people who are successful, we're going to have theories of human beings that bring them to success. And I thought that that's a very, very important distinction to make in his work. So he spent time studying and interviewing individuals who were immensely successful. Albert Einstein and famous scientists and famous wealthy people and movie stars and stuff like that. And he decided to go for the top rung and find those what he termed self-actualized people and basically try to get an understanding of what their lives are like. So let's take a look at the theory itself right now. The theory, although Maslow himself has never portrayed his theory in this shape, in this graphic shape of the triangle. This is probably the way you're always going to see it. I have a different model of that right at the end of my presentation here. And we see the various needs, and the needs are organized in a hierarchical organization. So physiological needs, then safety needs, then love and belonging, then esteem, and then self-actualization. Now, initially, when Maslow published his work on this, and it was interpreted as we need to get the physiological needs met first, and then we need to move on to the safety needs, and then we move on to the love and belonging, and then esteem, and then self-actualization. That strict stage theory, which is useful, and I'm going to tell you why in a little bit, was actually, he responded to that and said, no, that's not how this works. These are continuous. These work, and people jump around in terms of what they're doing to achieve these things. And somebody, for example, can forego their physiological needs because of love and belonging. You know, so it's not necessarily that one has to get achieved before the other, but there is a relationship. I mean, that I guess it's ideal. If all our physiological needs are met, we have enough food, water, healthcare, shelter, and all that stuff, then it's going to bring about safety. And then when we feel safety, we're usually safety in numbers. Then it brings love and belonging. And then love and belonging, that's where we get the feedback to develop a sense of ourself and our identity. That gives us esteem. And then we're able to move on and achieve great things. It makes perfect sense for people to move up that ladder, but that is not how Maslow portrayed it originally. But let's go through these and see what we know about each one of these. So we have physiological needs. Now these are our basic biological needs, and these are shared with the animal kingdom for food, shelter, water, things that our body needs in order to survive. And throw in here one of the small critiques that against Maslow was he put sex in here. Of course, sex, a basic drive, and also procreation. But the critiques say, well, sex is also intimacy, and it's part of love and belonging and esteem and all that stuff. And you'll see in that final graphic that reshapes this why I believe Maslow understood that. But he put those physiological needs down in this bottom character, and then we move up to safety needs, and this is that we are free from people taking away our stuff, that we have a future projection that the food I have right now will continue to be arriving, that the shelter I'm in is not temporary. I'm looking for those kind of things that I have, that I can walk around and not be threatened and whatever. And this right here really is, these two areas are really the areas of human need that are impacted when we have war, civil war, strife, when we, some a little bit, this, people are feeling safety concerns as I'm recording this. We just went through the election, Joe Biden, and people have some safety concerns, and it's stressing them out because it's, they feel that maybe they can't walk around without getting yelled at or something like that, or even attacked. So safety needs coming in here, that this is a very base root need. Again, going on that model that one leads more effectively to the other, I can't really feel that love until I'm feeling safe. I'm not going to, and you think about this almost as a development of anything, the development of a relationship anyway. There's, I like this person, we're together, they're not going to hurt me, I feel safe with this individual. That can lead to a sense of connection, love, and belonging with other people. Okay, and that connection is really, again, part of that humanist idea. And we study this in social psychology when we look at these needs are best met when we exist in groups, when we group together as families or groups or gangs or any sort of collection of people, we are better able to meet our physiological needs. We are better able, safety in numbers, right? Better able to meet our safety needs, and we have this sense of love and belonging that encompasses that. The group that is giving me the physiological needs and the safety needs, I'm going to love them. I feel a sense of belonging, feel a sense of connection, a sense of appreciation and thankfulness, gratefulness for their existence. So that's love and belonging. And then we move up to esteem. This is both, and it's just esteem because it's self-esteem and other esteem, these important qualities here. And kind of relates to another theory that I really like talking about. That's the looking glass self, is that we have this, there's a group of people that is on, I call it the looking glass self committee. And they're important individuals in our lives that are either placed there by happenstance, like our parents and individuals who have influenced us when we were young. And then we also place people on. These are important people, and we look to them as a guide for how well am I doing. And the looking glass theory says that I look in the mirror and I imagine what these people will see based on what I see, and I judge myself accordingly. That combines with my own self-judgment, my own ability to either go along with that committee or not. Maybe I have a jerk on the committee and I can't get rid of them, but so I ignore that person. But anyway, that esteem coming from I am living up to the expectations of others in that group that I belong to, who is providing safety and physiological needs for me. I'm meeting their expectations. I'm doing that. And then there's self-esteem, the product of that. So self-esteem is actually not directly created. It's indirectly created because it's a combination of our own objective, subjective evaluations of ourselves and our looking glass self committee's judgment of us, or our perceptions of their judgment of us. So self-esteem is really kind of a combination of those two, and that's what we're talking about in this esteem. Now, Maslow felt that the top level of development, self-actualization, was actually the pinnacle of human existence. This was, transcendence is above this, but this is the goal. And what Maslow's writing really sort of signifies is that the human need for excellence and to be important and to be part of something big and to achieve and all that is a mechanism built into us that draws us forward. It draws us through our physiological safety, love and belonging and esteem needs, because ultimately we strive for self-actualization. And each one of us has a different path, different definition of what that self-actualization is. There's some, concrete definitions. You're great at your job, you raised great kids, it's the mission of your life, and you did it well. And of course, there's, you wrote the great novel, you painted the great painting, you built the first rocket ship that goes to Mars, and you can see people who live lives of they're clearly self-actualized. When you meet a self-actualized person, you can look it up. Look up personality traits of a self-actualized individual, and you'll see a laundry list of confidence, agreeableness, creativity, all of these things. They all come together because that individual has been drawn to that. And that is the goal for all of us, according to Maslow. Now, there's some applications to this that I would like to look at, and that is, as a social worker, I'm very convinced that I can help individuals. When I went in to help individuals as a social worker, I did these in order. Like, my care plans, first, do you have food? Do you have shelter? Do you need new clothes? Something like that. And then, is your apartment a safe place to be? Safe not only in terms of physical safety, but if you're struggling with substance abuse and all of your roommates are actively drinking, then your place is not safe. It's going to be a place that's going to lead you to a slip. So we're kind of looking at those, and then connections with family, and then let's get you, what are your goals for your life, and planning out, and self-esteem, and and all that stuff. And I would, as a social worker, almost the care plan almost mirrored this. And if there were issues that were going on in a person's life, we could sometimes, as a way of diagnosing, we can say, well, are their basic needs being met? Where we have them in a job placement and they're not doing well, and it might be for a myriad of reasons, but we might want to look at, are their basic needs being met? Do they live in a safe place? Is it a supportive place? Do they have enough to eat? Because all of those things would, of course, get in the way of their performance. Now, I preempted that little slide. Do they have to be in order? Now, this has been my development of my role when I was a social worker, a mental health worker, and looking at the work first principle within in my field, psychiatric rehabilitation, right now. And I struggled with this for a really long time. I felt, individuals who were still working on physiological needs and and all that stuff really are not ready to be in work. Come on, you need to be kind of having a little bit together to get there. What I found, however, is there's increasing evidence and research that supports the notion that just like self-actualization draws us through, having a job in rehabilitation, having a sense of productivity, a reason to get up out of bed, a reason to take care of yourself, a reason to having breakfast, a reason to connect with others, a reason, all of these things. When you have a purpose, because I have to go to work, or I have these responsibilities at the clubhouse, or I have these responsibilities, in my community, that's what drew people to make those changes at the beginning. So just as Maslow rejected the idea that these had to be in order, my transition as a social worker, when I finally got the idea of what work first rehabilitation meant, was it's a really good idea, not for everyone, not every model's, there's no model for everyone, but it's a really good idea to have those higher level esteem goals, say, very much like work would be in the self-esteem, self-actualization area. You can establish those. It can actually be the motivation that leads people to satisfy the lower needs. It's a very interesting kind of play on that particular aspect of Maslow's theory. Now, let's take a look at this from the perspective of what is human and what is animal. Like I had a little bit about that here. We have Maslow felt that animals, physiological needs, safety needs, and love and belonging needs, and those were uniquely, not uniquely, but they were shared among all animals, have these. What makes us human is the extended versions of love and belonging, esteem, self-actualization, and ultimately transcendence. What he felt was that person who was able to move beyond self-actualization into a sense of universal connection. And I will say, I just got done recording a similar talk for my social psychology class, and one of the things that I talked about in there was the fact that as Maslow was examining these people who were self-actualized and in many ways transcending, almost all of them, in fact, I think he found a trend that individuals who were self-actualized realized that self-actualization through service to others. So it wasn't necessarily people who were rich for the sake of being rich. It was people who felt they had done the world a good, or now that they had money, they had the ability to be philanthropic. And so it's really, even in the guise of personal achievement, the thing that make them self-actualized is that they were able to serve humanity this way. And I look at, two of my favorite characters. We have Steve Jobs, who the late leader of Apple, who always, and even though he was a billionaire and he was a great, he was the businessman that he was, his goal was always to change the world, to make it a better place. Elon Musk is another one who's following in those same footsteps, that a lot of what he's doing is he's spending money simply to try to make the world a better place. And incidentally, he became a billionaire, but it's almost secondary. And so now things like that can be secondary when you have 70 billion in the bank, but but that idea of self-actualization and transcendence being about service to others is an important quality of Maslow's theory. Now I'm going to show you a different portrayal of Maslow's theory that I find is very interesting. Now we look at this right here, and these are the same areas. We're looking at the physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. And what you see is in the pathways of personal development, this is time. Time is the bottom arrow from left to right, from birth on. And we see early in life, of course, physiological and safety needs are the only things that we're worried about. Go along in life, and then love and belonging starts to happen, and that starts to increase. And we see, relative to each other, the later stages become more prominent, but the other ones never disappear. They just become less important, less of a focus of our energies. So we look at that self-actualization area. Let's say right in the middle here is, middle adulthood, and we're in that time of, creating that aspect of our lives that's going to be our legacy, and we start to develop those things, and the sense of the importance of physiological needs has gone down. I'm willing to make those sacrifices. Maybe safety needs, I'm willing to take some risks to make this happen. Those start to go down. Love and belonging, again, I can strike it out on my own, as I'm reaching for this. And then finally esteem, and the greatest at the end, when you have the self-actualized person, esteem, love, belonging, safety, and physiological needs are all still there, but they're significantly less important. So you see the shifting of priority over time. So early on, it's more about those lower levels, and then later on, they kind of shift to those higher levels. So I think it's actually a really neat portrayal of those, the dynamics in each one of those areas that Maslow talked about, and maybe more true to what Maslow originally was talking about. So I hope this has been great for you, and this is a great theory. It's a great applied theory for, when you're looking at the development of anything, when you're looking at a development of a relationship, or you're looking at the development of a family or a business or anything, and just like you can kind of go through and use it very structured. But you can also, let's say for yourself, maybe you're feeling stuck, or maybe you want to give thanks to the right people. And so if you kind of look at this and say, these are all the contributing factors to my success, or maybe I'm not feeling although I'm really, doing those esteem things, I can't quite make it to self-actualization because I'm lacking connection with others. And I might want to focus your energies on making connection with others and use it as a diagnosing tool. But a great model for motivation and what drives us with that emphasis on self-actualization is a universal human need. And so that's it for now. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.